So I run a company called Alley NSI. It's an incubator, co-working space, office space based in Midtown. We house about 150 different startup companies. We have about 400 members in our space. Do you guys know what a co-working space is? Do you know what an incubator is? You guys know what a startup is?
Yes.
So we house a bunch of startups. They're all trying to raise money. They're all trying to go to places like Y Combinator. You guys know what Y Combinator is? Does anybody know what that is? Okay. You guys know what Airbnb is?
Yeah.
What about Uber? You know what Uber is?
Yes.
You know what Dropbox is?
Yes. Yeah.
So Dropbox started off, they came out of a place called Y Combinator. Dropbox was at one point 2 or 3 folks who were sort of coding and building out this cloud solution. They got accepted to Y Combinator, that gave them some investments, and then they became this billion-dollar business. So in my space, we have a bunch of those type of companies. Some of them go off to Y Combinator, some of them go off to raise millions of dollars, and some of them go off to get regular jobs. Sometimes that just happens. So the premise behind our space is we house all kinds of engineers and scientists and developers and designers. They come together to create different products or different projects or different businesses. Then they get financing. We try to help them get that financing. We try to help them recruit and find members to their teams. And they maybe expand their teams and grow within our space, or they go off to another space. In many ways, we're like a college campus in the sense where the companies in our space are kind of staying in our dorms, or they're taking, basically staying in the dorms that we provide. We provide them with classes and workshops and connections to other folks inside the space so they can build their businesses out. We've recently, we started about 2.5 years ago, so we're in the process right now of expanding. So my target is today is a result of our team having been 2 people about a month and a half ago, and we're now 15 people. And we're going to be at 30 people in the next month or so. So we're a startup ourselves. We're in heavy growth mode. We're growing from a very small group of people to a very large group of people. Prior to all that, I had a couple businesses, and I was an engineer at General Electric. I worked in the design kitchen or innovation kitchen. Basically what we did there is we created next generation microwaves and dishwashers, real sexy stuff. It's compared to the location was Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky's facility is a consumer industrial facility. That's where they make all kinds of dishwashers and refrigerators and all that. And it's maybe a 3 or 4, I think it's actually a 5-mile radius facility in the middle of Louisville, Kentucky. And in the perimeter, like way off in the corner, is the innovation kitchen. That's where my office was with a bunch of other folks. And we would just blow things up. We would try to make microwaves that would make your food faster and fluffier and all that. We would try to make next generation refrigerators that are smaller and use less energy, or stoves that didn't have as high power requirements, didn't have high power requirements. We broke a lot of things. We blew a couple of things up. And some of the things you guys may find at JCPenney today, or wherever you buy stuff. You guys don't buy dishwashers or anything. That's probably good. I'd say before that, I was at Duke University working on Swarm Robotics. The idea there was we built about 15 small robots that can maneuver an entire room using this premise called Swarm Robotics. The idea there is, I guess my thesis at the time was to simplify the rules around a system of robots so that they can do something that a group of people would need to get together to do. So one of the test cases there was that we had these 15 robots that I built myself, and we programmed them all out so that they can move tables, they can move chairs. They would all get together on a table, and they'd move that table from one direction to another. Or they'd follow a light, and they moved the light box from one side of the room to the other. I did that while I was in college. That was a really awesome project. And in between all that, between the Swarm and General Electric, I started a couple companies. I failed a whole bunch of times. Failed so bad once I was homeless for about a month, actually 2 months, slept in my car. But I guess the overall thesis around all that, and one of the things that I take from engineering, I guess I should say when I was in school, I was a mechanical and electrical engineering major, which I'm not doing any of right now. I do no mechanical, electrical. I do nothing like that. There are elements into it, like when we're opening up a new building in Chelsea, and we have to have high-speed internet. So I meet with IT folks to talk about how we can build out a space and where we should put wireless access points across the space. Is anybody familiar with how wireless access points work? Sort of? Okay. So generally speaking, for a space that has about 400 people, you need to have sort of a network of wireless access points, because a single wireless access point, the reception of it is much like a speaker box. If you have a speaker box in one room and you're two or three rooms away, you can kind of hear it if it's loud. The closer you get to that speaker box, the louder it gets. Kind of that signal, the clarity of that sound is similar to the signal of your wireless access point. So we have to do some heavy number crunching to figure out the best arrangement for our wireless access points per floor. The building we're opening up in Chelsea has about 4 floors. Each floor has 30 companies. There's a bunch of different offices. So we have to kind of do some modeling to figure that stuff out. So the mechanical engineering, electrical engineering is really, the only parts of that I'm applying are the critical thinking, so the problem solving and deciding where we're going to put points and who's going to get what and how much this is all going to cost us. I guess the major thing, I was here last year, I spoke a little bit about this as well. The major thing that I got from everything is just how to think. I know that you guys are working on different projects. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to hear everything you guys are working on, but in the last, I guess, 10, 15 years of having been, I guess I've been an engineer all my life, taking things apart and all that. What you get really good at is learning how to solve problems. You're developing ways to think. There's this guy named Charles Junger. He's a right-hand man to this guy named Warren Buffett. You guys know who Warren Buffett is? Yeah. One of the richest men in the world. So behind him, there's a guy named Charles Junger. Charles Junger is sort of, his confidant has been his right-hand man for pretty much their entire career. And he has this theory called the lattice work of mental models. His theory is that if you understand how things work, you can apply that to everything else. So sometimes you may sit in like an English class and you're learning about the crucible, and you're saying, why is this ever going to matter to me? But there are problems that are being solved in the crucible story that can be applied to other things. For swarm robotics, we're applying our understanding of nature, how bees and how ants, how they collect, and using those rules to govern how we're going to get a system of robots to move and do something large. And that same sort of systems thinking is how we're managing the expansion of my space. We're moving to have 3 or 4 spaces in the next year. How we place those locations, the rules we have for the team members I'm bringing onto my team, what rules do I set for them, all of those things have sort of come full circle and all apply together. So the long story is, in engineering and everything you guys are learning, you guys are solving these small problems and some of them become bigger problems. And then you get to apply them over the course of your entire lives. And I would say like you should apply your engineering learning, your problem solving, your critical thinking skills, get really good at it, mess up a lot. I know I can't curse in here, but you know, a lot, like I do it a lot. So much so that you get comfortable with the prospect of failing, because you're gonna fail a lot. Like I said before, I had a company, I was homeless, but I had to figure out a situation to create enough money for myself to get up out of my car, which I was in. I started a tutoring company. Then I got from the tutoring company, I got an apartment, and I hired 30 people, and then I moved to New York. So that was a big problem that had to be solved. But you get very good at it the more you fail. And this is not engineering related at all, but I was just on the way here, I was in the cab, and I was scheduling my next skydive. So right now I'm a certified skydiver. Like I jump out of planes by myself. I'm on my 55th jump. And I've had, in order to get very good at skydiving, you have to fail a lot. You have to be in scenarios where you're falling out of the plane and the chute is not open. You pull the chute and nothing happens. You pull it again and nothing happens. And mind you, you're falling for 60 seconds. You pull it once, you're now at 40 seconds. You pull it again, you're at like 30 seconds. So in those moments, you have to solve some problems. You have to figure out what's going on. You have to understand, one, how does the chute work? How is the air filling the chute up? Where's my body oriented? How do I move my body so that it is filling the chute? In the failures that I've had 4 failures so far. You jump out the plane, and you know, you're free falling for a little bit. You're having a good time. You're checking your altimeter, like cool. I've got a couple more 1,000 feet to go, and you get ready to pull the chute, and nothing happens. And like you look back, your arms are looking back, and knowing just how air is flowing across my body and how air has to flow into the pocket of the chute behind me, I know that I have to turn to get that chute to open up. Understanding just the dynamics there, understanding the model, the system that I am governed by, allowed me to solve that problem. What I had ended up doing was turn my body a little bit, shake the chute so that it filled up, and as it filled up, I had to untwist. But basically, like the chute is, if you kind of envision these as strings, they were twisted with one another. Air had to get into the pocket. I had to twist my body to get air into the pocket, and then kick myself around to get the chute to open up. But that's like sort of high stakes problem solving. But when you get really good at solving problems like that, you get good at just solving problems in general, you can pretty much solve any situation. You can you just have to get good at abstracting what you're working on. So things you're working on here can be applied to social situations as well. They can be applied to math. They can be applied to problems you may have with a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I mean, there are things I do all the time that I've learned in calculus that I apply to my relationships. That's really so I guess the short story is like I'm not in my mind I've always been an engineer. I'm not an engineer right now technically, but we're building out big systems that have a lot of smaller problems in it. I've been training for that all my life, and hopefully you guys continue to do the same. So I guess with that, any questions, any thoughts, any comments, any concerns, go for it. I'm here to hear you guys out. What's up?
Were you terrified when it didn't open?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You said it as though you were in a
So when I got my license, I would say last year in November. So I'd never done any skydiving prior to that. So as you can imagine, the idea of getting into a plane with this piece of cloth behind you, and then you're gonna have this. So when you're training, the first 2 or 3 jumps, you have to do it a tandem jump. So that's when you have somebody else behind you, and he or she is sort of your backup. This sort of like your training wheels. Like if you pull the chute or you're scared, some people freeze up while they're falling through the sky. They freeze up, they get very tight. They don't pull the chute. So I pull the chute, but the first 2 or 3 jumps, you have another person behind you who's tapping you, telling you how your hand gestures have to go. It took me 10 jumps to get very comfortable, to be in the plane and to kind of just be at ease with the entire idea of the world being sort of like below you. But once you get comfortable, everything else is not as big of a deal. Like it's sort of, you know what you need to do. You know how the chute works. You know how you practice failing a couple times, because we literally spend the entire day thinking about how is your chute going to fail. Like what happens when the main chute doesn't open? What happens when the main chute breaks? How do you detach it and open up your second chute? How do you repair the parachute in 60 seconds to then open up the reserve? So I guess I was terrified in my mind, but when you watch the video, I wasn't terrified. I wasn't like panicking. It was more like it was composed. But in my mind, I was screaming. It was a scary moment. But that's happened like 4 times. Something like that's happened like 4 times. What else? What's going on? Anything else? What's up?
You said something like that happened 4 times.
Yeah.
You weren't like terrified to do it again after like the first
Absolutely
2?
not. Absolutely not. I'm not trying to be like. I'm not trying to be I'm not like fronting or anything. Like it was more. I wanted to do it more. I wanted to. It's a weird. Maybe I'm a weird person. I don't know. But I wanted to fail a couple more times. Like I've had friends who started businesses, and they've raised. For example, there's a company called HomeJoy, which at the end of this month is shutting down. They raised $48 million, and they're shutting down their business at the end of this month because of some sort of regulation they haven't been able to surpass. But hopefully the people who started HomeJoy, they're using that as sort of motivation to continue. They take the lessons that they've gotten from that and they move forward. So for me, it's almost like every single time I fail, it's a time to break yourself and to kind of figure out where your mind sort of stopped working and why you couldn't see past the situation. If you can get past the situation, you're not going to run into that situation again next time. You'll understand how to make the left turn or the right turn. So I look forward to it because it's, when you get good at skydiving, or when you get good at failing at businesses or whatever it is, you get good at just seeing the world a little bit more clearly. And it kind of gives me a sense of calm. What else? Any other questions, thoughts? Cool. So, what's next for me? What am I supposed to be doing next?
You check out the comments.
Okay. All right.
So those of you guys who aren't staying for the Zoom session, you guys can.
To me, you guys.